The voice of sharing, Durian
Hi, this is your host Arlene Tan at Monday Morning Matters, where we discuss perspectives from Southeast Asia. Today we're going to talk about the topic, is Malaysia too clingy on cheap labours, where we discuss on the market demand and rights of foreign workers. Malaysia is no stranger to foreign labours. Ever since we embarked on the economic path towards industrialization, Malaysia has been opening its doors on an influx of foreign workers. Majority of them are unskilled workers from poor neighbouring countries. They usually would occupy 3D jobs that Malaysians won't do. Jobs that are dirty, dangerous and demanding. Moreover, due to weak employment law and a system that lacks proper protection towards workers, they are also risk being abused by their employers and being looked down by locals. I will be speaking to Dr. Ong Kian Ming, a member of the Malaysian opposition party, Democratic Action Party, or short for DAP, and a member of Parliament for Serdang. He has been vocal against numerous government policies that are seen as detrimental to the nation and society. He will be sharing with me his views on the lack of government regulations on the rights of foreign workers in this country and why we need to increase the minimum wage to entice more Malaysians to work in 3D sectors. You are now listening to Monday Morning Matters.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN. With me is Dr. Ong Kian Ming, opposition DAP member and also member of Parliament for Serdang. So, first of all, I want to welcome you and thank you for accepting our interview.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to speak on this very important issue.
My first question is about the recent hiring of the 1.5 million workers from Bangladesh. Malaysia has selected the country as the source to hire more foreign workers in the next 3 years under a new system called the G2G Plus, through which both government and private agency can recruit labor. In fact, Bangladesh has approved draft deal to allow Bangladeshi private recruiting agency to send workers to Malaysia after the government-to-government hiring system failed in the past. With the new G2G Plus system, of course, the migration cost per person would be increased to 1,985 ringgit, which will be borne by the employers. With that in mind, do you agree with the government's decision to get more workers from Bangladesh?
I think we need to structure this question in the form of the bigger picture, which is why is the government allowing 1.5 million additional foreign workers to come into the country. Granted, not all of these 1.5 million would come in at one shot. It will be, like you said,
Within 3
spread
years.
over time. Yes, within 3 years. And I think the three reasons why I think this is a misguided policy is firstly, on the 1st of February, the government has increased the foreign workers levy in various industries by anywhere between 100 to 200%. And one of the main reasons is for this increase is for to disincentivize Malaysian companies from being too dependent on foreign labor. So if let's say the government wants companies to be less dependent on foreign labor, why is it at the same time allowing an additional 1.5 million foreign workers, new foreign workers to come into the country? So that's my first concern. I think the second concern is in regards to the transparency of these contracts. I think what you didn't mention just now is the accusations and the reports that are out there now that says that a Malaysian company that is owned by the Deputy Prime Minister's brother, our Deputy Prime Minister is also the Home Minister. His brother, this company that's owned by his brother has been given the contract to bring in these 1.5 million workers and also to manage and monitor them. So we're talking about a lot of money here, and the level of transparency involved, I think, leaves much to be desired. And then I think the third issue why I think this is worrisome and also misguided policy on the part of the government is that we have the problem of existing problem of undocumented or illegal migrant workers in this country that has not been resolved. So when the country has not resolved this problem, wouldn't bringing an additional 1.5 million Bangladeshi workers worsen this problem? So I think these are the three reasons why we need to be very critical of this policy.
Mm-hmm. But this is not the first time the government bring in foreign workers to Malaysia. It's an ongoing process. Do you think the government is merely fulfilling the market demand?
Yeah, so maybe I think we should clarify. It is not the government that brings in these workers. It is the private sector that requests for these workers, and the private sector has to pay for the cost of bringing in these workers. The government is sort of like an intermediary, either directly or indirectly in this process by all the requirements and health checks and the visas that they have to issue. But I think the question now is two questions I want to raise. Firstly, is the government's position somewhat compromised because of the need to increase government revenue due to the falling oil prices? Mm-hmm. Right. So I think we can see that the increase in the foreign worker levy, I think it's directly tied to this more recent phenomenon. And I think this is troubling because if the government is compromised in its overall philosophy or policy, it means that even if, let's say, bringing in foreign workers may be detrimental to the country's economic growth prospects in the long term, the government may feel the need to allow more foreign workers to come into the country in the short term because it can earn money for the government.
I see. But the government, according to Datuk Sri Zahid Hamidi, he said that the request for more foreign workers is not about him getting a contract for nepotism, but it was made because the industry players, including some of the members of Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, asked for it.
Yeah, sure. I think many employers are, overly dependent on foreign workers. It is their right to ask for foreign workers. But I think our Home Minister cannot deny a couple of things. One is that, to bring in these foreign workers, there are costs involved, right? And there's always intermediaries that can benefit financially from the bringing in of these foreign workers. It is not the costs that have to be paid are not channeled, are paid by these manufacturing companies and plantation companies, but they have to go somewhere. So if, let's say, there's a company involved that is owned by the Deputy Prime Minister's brother that is benefiting from it, then there's definitely nepotism involved. I think secondly, the private industries in this country can ask for a lot of things. It doesn't mean that the government has to accede to all of their requests. So just because these companies demand for a certain number of foreign workers to bring that needs to be brought in, the government does not necessarily have to agree to these requests 100%. I think the government needs to think about the long-term benefit to the country and also to give priority to Malaysian workers in some of these sectors where I think Malaysians are willing to work in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Overall, opposition politicians actually say that more locals should take the job and the way forward would be to increase the minimum wage. But would Malaysians take the 3D job, which is dirty, dangerous and demanding?
I think there's a general misconception that Malaysians don't want to take these jobs. Let me just push back on that a little bit and give you a counter example. In Malaysia, most of the waste management contracts have been given to the private sector, especially in Barisan National Control state government. So what these private sector companies do is that then they subcontract, and then many of these contractors then use foreign workers to collect the rubbish. But in Penang, what happened was that the local municipality actually decided to retain bring back about 30% of waste contract management back into the municipality, and jobs were offered for rubbish collection by the municipality at a minimum wage of 1,500 ringgit. There was an overwhelming response from locals who didn't mind working, in these jobs when the when the wage was high enough, 1,500 ringgit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just one example. Another example I can give is, for example, when I was growing up, many young people would work at 7-Elevens, for example, as a way to earn money in the short term, because it's their summer, it's their holiday, school holidays, or it's a short term job for them before they go on to university and whatnot.
But these jobs are not dirty and dangerous, and perhaps not as demanding.
Well, some people would say that it's demanding because you have to work on shifts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even though these jobs may not be categorized as the 3Ds, you can see the phenomenon whereby more and more foreign workers are actually working in 7-Eleven.
I see.
Right? So part of the argument that people like Zahid are saying that all these foreign workers are coming to take the 3D jobs is actually not accurate, because they are working in areas that actually Malaysians would be willing to work in. If, let's say, number one, the number one reason is the level of wages is too low. And the fact that foreign workers are allowed to come in such great numbers allow these wages to be continually depressed.
The request is from Malaysian manufacturers. All this labor, majority of them will be placed in manufacturing industry, and it's very competitive globally. If we don't lower the labor costs, other countries would take over the manufacturing industry.
I think, again, I have to push back on that. If you look at the statistics, it's not just the manufacturing companies who are bringing out these foreign workers. You have domestic maids, for example. They constitute about 10 to 20% of foreign workers. You have those who are working in the plantation sectors, which are not classified as manufacturing. You have those working in retail, the 7-Eleven jobs that I talked about just now. And this would also include many of the restaurants. So if you look at the restaurants in the Klang Valley, many of them are actually populated by foreign workers, right? So, to say that it is just the manufacturing companies that are bringing them in, I think it's just plainly not factually correct. I think then the second argument that you talk about just now, that we may not become competitive. You look at some of the manufacturing powerhouses in the world. United States is actually still a manufacturing powerhouse, although we don't think of them as such. Germany is definitely a manufacturing powerhouse. They don't depend on foreign workers in the manufacturing sector. What they've done is they've actually increased their productivity in the manufacturing sector through mechanization and increasing the skills of their workers. And the workers in the manufacturing sector in these countries are paid very high wages, much higher than, for example, in the service sector. I'm not saying that Malaysia is ready to go towards to compete at the same productivity level as Germany. But if, let's say, we were to continually use these arguments that we need to be competitive and that's why we need foreign workers, I think this is basically just giving an excuse for Malaysian workers to be continually underpaid and not give any incentives for increases in productivity that would increase the wages of the workers here in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. My final question for this segment is, with countries that you mentioned just now, and most of them focus on heavy industry that has matured to this extent where technology is incorporated in the manufacturing industry. But in Malaysia, we still very much focus on low-level industries that require very little technology. So how can Malaysia compete?
Yeah, so all these countries did not start with everything being automated or everything being mechanized or using high technology. They also had to go through a process. So Malaysia similarly has got to go through a process as well. Let me give you a very simple example. There was the impression that cotton picking, picking cotton from the cotton plants was a very unique process that required a lot of labor because the cotton is very soft. They need delicate hands for you to pick. But and in the United States, who would be picking the cotton? It would be the slave labor during the 18th century and the 17th century. But after slavery was prohibited and abolished, what happened? The industries actually developed cotton picking machines, such that the process is now very much mechanized. Right, so you had a situation where you needed a lot of forced labor. In this case, not foreign labor, but forced labor, slave labor, people resisting the incentives to mechanize. But later on, because of the need to mechanize and to upgrade your technologies, a lot of these countries, such as the United States, actually went down towards that path. So I think Malaysia should be trying to head towards that path as well, especially if we want to become a high-income nation.
Mm-hmm. This is the end of the first segment. We will continue the second segment in a bit.
Monday Morning Matters.
Perspectives
From Southeast Asia.
For more interviews by Durian ASEAN, please tune in to our website at durianasian.com. If you're on the go, you can always download our TuneIn app on your mobile. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels at Durian ASEAN and Durian ASEAN TV. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page, Twitter and Instagram. We always welcome feedback from our listeners. Stay tuned with Monday Morning Matters on Monday, same time at 10 to 11 a.m. on GMT Plus 8. Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.